Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne. You're listening to Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. Today we're going to be talking about mean girls. Two mean girls that even Regina George would run away from. We're talking about Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shoaf. But most importantly, we're going to be talking about Skylar Neese, the lovely young lady who fell victim to these two monsters.
I have a daughter that's 16 years old. Apparently she snuck out of her room last night and she hasn't been seen since. None of her friends can get a hold of her. I can't find her.
Hey, what's her name?
Skylar Neese.
I'm sure you've all asked yourself this question at one time or another, but why are teenage girls so mean? Relational aggression is a very different form of aggression than the physical bullying and name-calling that takes place among boys. Relational aggression, by definition, is a type of aggression that is intended to harm others through deliberate manipulation of their social standing and relationships. Examples of relational aggression include establishing rules for being in a friend group, such as what they should wear or how they should act, and using peer pressure to get other girls to follow the rules. I mean, we all know that on Wednesdays we wear pink, and I'm down with that one, but that might be the only one. Cyberbullying, including mean text and social media posts, or posting photos of get-togethers where some people were left out, getting others to turn against a victim, sharing someone's secrets in order to embarrass them or expose them. I'm sure almost every one of us has been a victim to these examples, and also we may have been the bully at times. We've all been there, I get it. With it comes a desire to feel in control during a stage in life when most girls often feel like they can't control what's happening in their bodies and their lives. In Sheila Eddy's case, I speculate that narcissistic tendencies manifested as aggression when her ego was threatened. April 28th, 2013. Sheila Eddy posted this on her Twitter page. "It's so weird how people fight with their best friend. Like I never fight with mine." Sheila Eddy posted that to Twitter on April 28th, 2013. Let's just rewind a little bit from 2013 and go back to when Sheila Eddy met Skylar Neese. Sheila and Skylar met in second grade and became instant best friends. Both girls were from an only child family and they acted more like sisters than just friends. Sheila's home life seemed a little bit harder than Skylar's was. Sheila was born to her parents Greg Eddy and Taryn Clendenden. She was raised as an only child and born on September 28, 1995 in Blacksville, West Virginia. Her parents divorced in 2000. In the wake of their divorce, Tara and Jim moved to Morgantown, West Virginia in October 2010, and Sheila started going to the same high school as Skylar, University High School. Skylar Annette Neese was born February 10, 1996, to parents Mary and David Neese. Skylar was a sweet, genuine young lady. She was not only kind-hearted, but she was also smart, driven. She had a great sense of humor. In high school, she wanted to be a criminal lawyer. She was an excellent student and a very responsible kid. She was very popular and so confident. She had a part-time job at Wendy's. So not only killing it in school, but she's working part-time, she's got dreams, she's got aspirations. She knew what she wanted her future to look like. Freshman year of high school, along comes Rachel Shoaf. Sheila and Skylar meet Rachel Shoaf, who showed up at the high school freshman year. She was also raised as an only child, and before meeting the girls, Rachel attended a private Catholic school. She was somewhat sheltered, and her family was a bit wealthier than the other families in town. She was always the star of the school plays. Her mom was a journalist, and her dad owned a clothing store. The three friends were super close, always on Twitter. They acted more like sisters than friends, but the inevitable always happens. At some point, intergroup jealousy always begins. Most of the kids in University High School would go on to say that Skylar, Sheila, and Rachel were never apart. The three of them were always attached at the hip, and they were always writing on Twitter. A lot of the students would say that you could almost tell what was going on in their lives by the post that they were constantly making on Twitter. And it's at this point where I feel most people use social media as their own personal diary. And I just want to slap them and say, you know that this is going to be there for the rest of your life. The whole world will see that you were vague booking that day. Vague booking is basically when you say something online, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, but you don't give any details. You're kind of like, oh, woe is me. That's what I refer to as vague booking. And to contradict everything that I just said, we are very lucky that in this case, Sheila, Rachel, and Skylar were all taking to Twitter. It's the summer of 2012, and Skylar is starting to feel a little left out of this three-person friendship. It's the 4th of July, it's 2012, Skylar is home alone because Rachel and Sheila hung out without her, and we all know that feeling. It's a horrible feeling. Skylar's feeling lonely and depressed, and rumors are starting to fly around the school that Rachel and Sheila were actually hooking up and in love, but they both had boyfriends. So students were confused. They started pushing Skylar away, and they would purposely push Skylar out, and Skylar would vent her frustrations on Twitter. On the night of July 4th, 2012, Skylar writes on Twitter, "So sick of being at fucking home. Thanks, friends." In quotations. Love hanging out with you all too. We all know how that feels. And we all know how it feels to want to just let that aggression out. And instead of confronting who you want to speak to, you're just venting out your feelings. And at age 14, 15, when this is happening to you, it's just one of the worst experiences as a teenage girl. I mean, it's the worst experience as a teenage boy, as a grown woman, as a grown man. It is still a horrible feeling to be left out. The next night, July 5th, 2012, Skylar's working at Wendy's. When she got home, her parents were in the living room watching TV. Skylar says goodnight to her parents and then goes to her room. At 12:30 a.m. that morning, Friday, July 6th, Skylar sneaks out her bedroom window. She takes her cell phone and wallet. Surveillance video of her leaving her apartment complex at 12:30 a.m. would surface. A car is waiting for her. Skylar gets into the back seat, and the car drives away. At this point, Skylar had already been sneaking out more and more lately, rebelling. The three of them would go across the Pennsylvania border to smoke weed. They've gotten into drinking, and they would stay out past curfew. The three girls were really into Twitter, but Sheila chronicled every moment and was obsessed. It's the morning of July 6th, 2012. Dave, Skylar's dad, wakes up. He planned to go to his shift at Walmart, then come home and give Skylar his car so she could go to work at Wendy's. He gets home, her door is locked. He keeps knocking, she never answers. He immediately gets scared, looks into her bedroom window and sees that she snuck out. Sees that there is a small bench right outside of her window that she crawled out the window and stepped onto to leave. He calls Sheila. Sheila says that she spoke with Skylar at midnight, but hasn't spoken to her since. She had no idea where she was, and she had no idea where she could be. Skylar's mom and dad stay calm. They think they shouldn't worry. Let's just wait. Let's call her work and see if she's there. Maybe she went into work early. But they call Wendy's, and Wendy's manager tells them Skylar never showed up to work. The panic sets in. It is at this point that Sheila calls the Neeses back. She tells them that she did actually pick Skylar up at 11 p.m. She admits that Rachel and Sheila had driven to Skylar's apartment complex, picked her up at 11 p.m., and then they said that they dropped her off an hour later around midnight. But there is surveillance footage. They said they dropped her off down the street from the apartment so that the parents wouldn't hear her sneaking in. Sheila does not know at this point that they know that Skylar left her bedroom window at 12:31 a.m. Regardless of all of that, Mary and Dave truly trust Sheila. And why wouldn't they? She's been a part of their family since the girls were in second grade. Sheila shows up at the Neese's home with her mother, Tara. They all help in the search for Skylar. They go to the landlord and they watch the cameras. The footage is really grainy, but they can still see that Skylar got into a vehicle at 12:31 a.m. And it's at this point that an Amber Alert is not issued in Skylar Neese's disappearance because the circumstances did not meet all 4 criteria for an alert to be issued. The 4 criteria are: 1, a child is believed to be abducted. 2, the child is under 18. 3, the child may be in danger of death or serious injury. And 4, there is sufficient information to indicate the Amber Alert would be helpful. The parents take the matters into their own hands. They hand out flyers, they go door to door. These parents, Mary and David, are 2 of the most spectacular parents to me. After researching this case, their dedication, their passion, they wouldn't stop. They weren't going to stop until they knew what was happening to their daughter. Dave, Skylar's dad, states that he had the most helpless feeling in the world. Dave says, "Everything that you cherish in the world is gone, and you have no clue where to look for it." It's so haunting. That statement has haunted me since I've been researching this. Sheila and Rachel are acting very concerned and devastated towards the Neese family. Sheila would always call the Neeses, acting very concerned and depressed and sad, taking to Twitter and Facebook to express her concern about where Skylar is and that she misses her best friend. She kept asking the Neeses if they had any info on the case. As police continued to search for Skylar Neese, her family kept distributing missing person flyers all around the region. Sheila Eddy joined in. Sheila even went into Skylar's room and sobbed on her bed. It's now July 9th, 2012. Police are beginning to realize that this is a missing persons case. By September of 2012, the FBI had joined the case and began interviewing Skylar Neese's friends. Authorities immediately begin to suspect that Shoaf and Eddy were hiding something. Sheila is now interviewed by investigator Jessica Colbank. Jessica Colbank has stated that she instantly thought Sheila was a narcissist and, quote, wrong. Investigator Colbank has stated that the moment she went in to interview Sheila Eddy, her demeanor seemed suspicious, and when she went to speak for her the first time, she said, and I quote, just complete blank on emotions, and there was absolutely nothing. It was like iced over. Colbank also thought that Rachel Shoaf was very nervous when she first spoke to her. Their stories were verbatim. They were exactly the same, and no one's story is exactly the same unless it's rehearsed. Everything in my gut was Sheila is acting wrong. Rachel is scared to death, said Colbank. Rachel Shoaf was interviewed over the phone on July 7th. Rachel was at a church camp, so the police had to interview her via phone, and the police say that Rachel seemed cool and collected. She didn't come in for an interview right away. They had to track her down, and she started to seem almost scripted. As Jessica Colbank has said, the girl's stories were exact. Police searched Skylar's journals and computers, and the last journal entry was about Sheila, and it was from a year ago, stating that Sheila could get away with anything. Sheila got all the attention from the boys. She wrote a lot about Sheila's sex life. It was almost as if she lived vicariously through her. Most importantly, Skylar wrote about how Sheila had hooked up with women. She wrote about how at a sleepover, Sheila and Rachel hooked up after drinking. Skylar locked herself in the bathroom and said that she felt very uncomfortable being in the same room with them. As police are leaning in more towards the fact that Rachel and Sheila had something to do with this, they create a fake persona online to snag the girls. And this is because of the numerous amounts of tweets. They kept bringing the girls in and they kept interrogating them, but they never changed their story. It was always Rachel nervous, Sheila poised and cheerful. They also said that they felt like Sheila was a little flirty with even the police. So police are trying to now piece together what they think might have happened on the night of Skylar's disappearance. They do figure that the girls did drive to Blacksville. The girls originally denied that, but the cells indicated that the girls were texting Skylar while she was apparently with them. Police think that maybe Skylar OD'd and the girls left her somewhere, and then Rachel finally messes up and says a completely different story. Rachel says that Skylar ran away into the woods. They tried to chase her, but they never found her. And now Sheila starts telling the same story. The girls are starting to crack, and the police can tell. They have Sheila take a polygraph, and Sheila fails hard. Now Rachel is on her way to meet with the police. Her dad is driving her. As they're driving to the police station, Rachel just jumps out of the car and starts running. She runs to Sheila's house, and she runs to Sheila's mom, Tara. The pieces are starting to come together. It's now December 16th, 2012, and Mary and Dave are now starting to turn on the girls and starting to realize that maybe they shouldn't trust Sheila and Rachel so much anymore. Also, Tara, Sheila's mom, she wasn't liked by either the parents or the police. It's at this point that Rachel's parents, who are divorced, decide to move back in together for the sake of Rachel's sanity. Rachel is losing it. Rachel is not holding up very well anymore, and I don't know if it was a breaking point for her, but just when her dad decides to move back in, Rachel throws a screaming fit. She runs from her home. She basically loses her mind and runs through the neighborhood screaming. Her mom can't get her inside. They call the police. They call 911 for help. They get Rachel inside, and now Rachel is threatening to kill herself. They call the police, and Rachel is taken to a psychiatric hospital. Sheila tries to visit her in this hospital, but she was banned. 5 days later, Rachel is released from the hospital. She goes straight to her lawyer, and the lawyer takes her to the police station where she takes a polygraph test. She's interviewed again, and only a few questions in, Rachel just burst out with the statement, "We stabbed her." Rachel spills it all to the police. Skylar was stabbed over 50 times to the point of almost being decapitated. Not only did Sheila and Rachel plan out this murder of Skylar, but they also brought along with them what they called a serial killer kit. Inside of this kit, there were towels, bleach, a shovel, a change of clothes for each of them, and in addition, they packed the knives that they would use to kill Skylar. Both of the girls wore hooded sweatshirts while they stabbed Skylar to death. Their plan was to kill Skylar, dispose of her body, change their clothes, and head back home as if nothing had happened. On the night of July 6th, 2012, Sheila and Rachel drove Skylar to a secluded location in Pennsylvania, a location that the girls would frequent to smoke weed and hang out. It is here that Rachel and Sheila counted to 3 and attacked Skylar with knives. They reportedly stabbed her dozens of times until she stopped making, quote, weird sounds. After they murdered Skylar, Sheila and Rachel planned to bury her body using the shovel they brought along. However, they found the ground was too rocky for them to make a dent in it. So instead, they dragged Skylar's body to the secluded area. They left it next to a large tree and they covered her with branches. Officers are shocked at Rachel's story. They ask why. Everyone wants to know why. Why would you do this? And all that Rachel could say was, it's because we didn't like her. We wanted to get rid of her. We were done being friends with her. Rachel takes them to the body. Police get warrants. They end up seizing every knife in Rachel's house. Sheila doesn't know yet that any of this is going down. Rachel wears a recording device to get Sheila to confess. And on February 10th, 2013, Skylar's birthday, her parents held a vigil but couldn't tell people that they knew where her body was found. They had to keep quiet so that they could still snag Sheila. How horrifying that must have been for them to be surrounded by their family and friends, celebrating the life of their daughter, and they're not allowed to tell anybody that they know that police have found the body of Skylar. Rachel and Sheila were still writing on Twitter. Sheila wrote on her Twitter, "We really did go on 3." It's so disgusting the way that it was almost a brag that she wanted to tell people that she did this. But it was almost like, haha, I have a little secret. The type of personality that is able to do that should be locked up in jail forever. Which brings us to May 1st, 2013. Rachel Schoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. The court transcript indicates that other students overheard conversations between Sheila and Rachel about the murder plot, but the students failed to report it, mistakenly believing that the girls were joking. According to Rachel's plea agreement, she pleaded guilty to murder in the second degree by unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, maliciously, and intentionally causing the death of Skylar Neese by stabbing her and causing fatal injuries. In the plea agreement, the state of West Virginia recommended a sentence of 20 years incarceration. Rachel Schoaf expressed remorse and apologized to the Neeses, her own family, and apologized to God during her sentencing. On September 4th, 2013, West Virginia prosecutors publicly identified Sheila Eddy as the second alleged perpetrator of the murder of Neese and announced that she would be tried as an adult. Now, I want to point out that there is video that you can Google. It's Sheila Eddy entering the courtroom on the day of her hearing, and you can see the way that she is flirting. Even with her hands handcuffed behind her back in her orange jumpsuit, she looks pretty. I will admit it. And the way that she is staring at all the other men, it's giving the vibes of like, I know you think I'm hot. I know you want me. This girl is behaving that way in the middle of a murder trial. A murder trial. She's still hitting on all the guys in the courtroom. I just had to bring that up because in research, that video always gave me chills, and it always just kind of showed her character. Like, you could see it through the screen. You could tell what kind of girl this person is just by watching that very tiny clip of her entering the courtroom. Sheila Eddy was indicted by a grand jury on September 6th, 2013, on 1 count of kidnapping, 1 count of first-degree murder, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. She pleaded not guilty. The date for her trial was originally set for January 28, 2014, but facing the prospect of additional charges from the Pennsylvania authorities, Sheila Eddy pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. She expressed no remorse, but was sentenced to life in prison with mercy. West Virginia law requires that a juvenile offender have a possibility of parole on a whole life sentence, with Sheila Eddy eligible for parole after 15 years. Pennsylvania authorities did not file charges as per her plea deal. Sheila Eddy remains in custody at the Lakin Correctional Center. Sheila will have her first parole hearing in May of 2028. Rachel Schoaf was sentenced to 30 years in prison with eligibility for parole after 10 years. And in May of 2023, Rachel Schoaf was denied parole. She had the chance to address Skylar's family, and what she said is the following. I know I can't express how sorry I am for what I have done and for the pain I have caused. I loved her. I know what we did was terrible, and there's no words to describe the pain that we caused, and I know there is nothing I can say or do. I just pray for them all the time and pray for peace in their heart. I would trade places with Skylar so she could be with her loved ones. I just want them to know how deeply sorry I am. I want to read the following to you. Skylar's dad, Dave, had his chance to also address the parole board. Ladies and gentlemen of the West Virginia Parole Board, thank you for the opportunity to tell you why I believe this inmate should not be granted parole. Because of the malicious monster, my child never got a limo for her prom. Instead, she got a ride in a coroner's vehicle. Also, there was no sparkling gown for Skylar, just a body bag. She will never have a certification of graduation, only a death certificate. This narcissistic, first-degree, cold-blooded killer is not sorry for the brutal murder of my only child. It is my belief that she is proud she murdered my daughter in cold blood, the day after she plunged kitchen knives into my child. This devil was seen on a friend's boat, smiling and posing for photographs. The date of July 6th, 2012 was chosen for a specific reason. You see, this beast wanted the killing out of the way before she left for church camp. Just another task to mark off of her list, like standing over my child saying, "Die, bitch," as my baby girl took her last breath. Because the evil butcher didn't want to be her friend. I wasn't there to defend my baby girl from this diabolical killer on July 6th, 2012, but I'm here today to do everything within my power to make sure she stays behind bars. This inmate has proven that she is both evil and mentally unstable. No one can fix that kind of madness. I believe if she is paroled, she will kill again. Murder is a game to this inmate. Ladies and gentlemen, that is insanity. This person has proved to be a narcissist and is a dangerous person who has no remorse in the least. This inmate has destroyed so many lives when she murdered Skylar. This inmate is just the rat that narked and got a deal. Yes, she showed us where she murdered Skylar, yet she is still also the narcissist liar that put my daughter in that place. This monster is a danger to society. If released, no parent can close their eyes at night without the fear that their own child could possibly be the next victim. This vicious murderer sits here today asking for a second chance, and I ask you, where is Skylar's second chance? Where was her second chance when this monster counted to 3 and began to slash and stab at my only child? I don't want to live in a world without Skylar, but I have to. I want to make sure it's as safe as possible from predators like this one. I ask that you deny parole. I'm sorry, it's really hard to read this. I ask that you deny parole for this diabolical butcher and allow Skylar's mother and I the knowledge that her killer will not be granted the reality of adulthood that our daughter was never allowed to experience. I apologize for the crying. It's just one of the hardest things I've ever read. And as a parent of a teenager, it hits home. And I feel so deeply for Skylar's parents. In June of 2013, Dave and Mary Neese held a vigil at the site where Skylar was murdered. They created Skylar's Law, which requires Amber Alerts even when police suspect a teen has run away. Dave and Mary Neese refer to Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf as the Inmates. They don't deserve a name. They are not mean girls. They are just the Inmates. And I can't leave you without saying it. You know it. Stay paranoid.